I never imagined my life would resemble a melodramatic television series. Then Thanksgiving arrived. It all began with the delicate chime of glasses and the aroma of roasted poultry permeating the living room. The dining table, adorned with a rich brown tablecloth, showcased a collection of traditional holiday dishes. Our extensive family had convened at my parents' home in Seattle. Aunt Mildred contributed her signature pecan pie. My cousin Ethan regaled everyone with boisterous jokes from the head of the table, punctuating them with excessive whys. I, as always, remained a quiet observer. No one inquired about my well-being or my professional life. They genuinely didn't care. I was meticulously preparing mashed potatoes for my niece Chloe, when a painfully familiar voice cut through the festive air, sharp enough to silence the room. "Before we partake in the turkey, I have an announcement," my sister Beatrice declared, rising to her feet with a smile that felt disturbingly insincere. Her hair was impeccably styled, her fingernails painted a vibrant crimson, and her tone was crisp, rehearsed, as if she'd practiced this speech countless times in front of a mirror. Every individual at the table froze, their utensils suspended mid-air. I held my breath, anticipation hanging heavy in the room. "I believe it's time for complete honesty," she stated, surveying the gathering with the practiced grace of a beauty pageant contestant about to announce the winner. "Last week, we conducted a poll." My father cleared his throat, a nervous sound. My mother carefully placed her wine glass on the table, her eagerness palpable. "And the outcome?" Beatrice paused, drawing out the suspense, before turning to me. "Layla, we've decided you are no longer considered part of this family." Silence descended upon the room. I initially believed I had misheard. Then, the truly shocking event transpired. The room erupted in applause. Genuine applause, accompanied by a low whistle from Carol. Luke raised his glass in a mocking toast, and my mother, she dissolved into laughter, as if it were the most uproarious joke of the evening. "Finally, someone said it," she remarked casually, as if commenting on the weather. I looked at my father. He avoided my gaze, simply shaking his head slightly, muttering, "Perhaps this is for the best." I remained rooted to my spot, my hand gripping the tablecloth's edge. The turkey on my plate continued to steam, yet I felt an icy chill permeate my being. My throat tightened, not with sadness, but with a surge of incandescent rage. Slowly, I pushed back my chair, and rose to my feet, amid the smug silence. "You actually planned this?" I asked, my voice low but laced with disbelief. Beatrice smiled, a triumphant, undeniable victory etched across her face. "You've always been a disruptive element, perpetually cold and distant, acting superior to us." They didn't verbally respond, merely nodding slowly, before bending to retrieve my purse. "I suppose since I'm no longer considered family, these won't be necessary," I said, placing a substantial folder on the table. The sound was subtle, yet it sliced through the tension like a sharp knife. Beatrice flinched. "What's this?" she demanded. I crossed my arms, leaned back, and met her gaze directly. "Why don't you examine its contents?" The moment she opened the first page, I witnessed the shattering of her carefully constructed facade. Her smile fractured like glass against tile. Her face drained of color. Her hands trembled as she turned each page. Then, a piercing shriek escaped her lips, causing little Chloe to burst into tears. Everyone in the room rose to their feet. Joel, Beatrice's husband, snatched the folder. Moments later, he turned to me, his features devoid of color. "Is this real?" he asked. I nodded, my gaze steady. Every figure, every message, every lie. The holiday gathering transformed into a silent battleground. Beatrice stood frozen, her eyes struggling to process the evidence before her. Several pages lay scattered on the floor, victims of her trembling hands. Not a word was spoken, only the ticking of the wall clock, and Chloe's muffled sobs on Aunt Mildred's lap filled the silence. How did you obtain all of this?" Beatrice finally managed, her voice cracking under the weight of her deception. I moved towards the table, my voice steady, calmer than I had anticipated. "Because I knew, one day, you would commit an act that you couldn't undo." Joel picked up one of the fallen pages. It displayed a screenshot of a bank transfer, $100, from my account to one under Beatrice's name, immediately following her tearful claim that Joel had lost his job. "And this?" Joel inquired, his voice, low but sharp, pointing to another document. 3 nights at the Ocean View Hotel, charged to your card, booked under the name Anya Reed. Beatrice opened her mouth to speak, but no words emerged. My mother attempted to interject, but I raised my hand to silence her. "I'm not finished," I stated firmly. I bent down, retrieved another set of documents, and slid them towards my father. "These are for you," I said, offering a detailed breakdown of my contributions towards his hospital bills after his fall the previous year, meticulously itemized with supporting receipts. My father stared at the papers, his face an unreadable mask, yet a slight tremor ran through his hand as it rested on the table. Then, I turned to my mother. "And here's a screenshot of your bank transaction from April 12th, $2,700. I transferred those funds to cover your pressing credit card debt." My mother retaliated defensively. "Why are you bringing this up now? We're family. That money was given out of love." "What kind of love mocks me, excludes me, and then votes me out of a family dinner?" I countered, my eyes fixed on hers. "Not one of you ever apologized. None of you ever considered repaying a single cent." I scanned the room, taking in their faces, one by one. "You desired my silence, my compliance, because I'm single, without children, and never complain. To you, I've been nothing more than a walking ATM." Luke spoke up, his voice weak and hesitant. "Layla, perhaps we shouldn't have applauded. We simply didn't realize the gravity of the situation." I turned to him, my tone calm, yet acutely sharp. "You applauded when I was banished from the family. You laughed when Beatrice insulted me in front of Chloe. You remained silent every year I financially supported all of you. So don't pretend to be innocent now." No one offered a response. I retrieved my phone, activated a voice recording, and pressed play. Beatrice's voice filled the room, clear and undeniable. "She always acts so righteous. Cut her off financially and watch her crumble. No one loves her. No one misses her." This was followed by my mother's laughter. I paused the recording, placing my phone on the table. Beatrice turned pale. "You were spying on me," she accused. "No," I replied, "but you accidentally sent that recording to Sarah during your gossip session, and she forwarded it to me. I kept it, as I always do, because I don't forget." I addressed my father. "You saw everything, heard everything." He looked down, remaining silent. Beatrice clenched her fists, hissing through gritted teeth. "You're terrifying, Layla. Who hoards this much information like a paranoid lunatic?" I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "Someone who has been betrayed repeatedly learns to remember and prepare." Joel turned to the final page of the folder, a financial summary detailing my contributions to each family member over the past 6 years, totaling $72,400. He looked at me, hesitant. "You kept all of this, because you knew a day like this would come?" I nodded, my gaze unwavering. "I hoped it wouldn't, but I prepared. Because people who genuinely love each other don't hold a vote to exclude someone from a family gathering." I returned to my chair, retrieved my coat, and slowly slipped my arms through the sleeves. "I didn't ruin your dinner," I said. "I simply finally showed up, this time with the truth." As I turned to leave, I heard Joel quietly ask, "Beatrice, who is Anya?" But I didn't need to look back. I walked towards the door, believing I had gone far enough. Then I heard Joel call out softly, "Layla, I need more information. Everything in that folder, is it all true?" I paused, my hand on the doorknob, my back still to them. "You want specifics? Fine, let me walk you through it." I returned to the table, gently taking the folder from Joel's grasp and laying it open before everyone. I turned a page, each line highlighted, accompanied by screenshots of transfers, confirmation emails, and text requesting money, ranging in tone from sweetly persuasive to entitled. $11,000 for Beatrice and Joel to launch a bakery that failed after 6 months. $6,200 for a new vehicle for Dad, because his old one allegedly couldn't handle the commute. $3,900 for Mom when she claimed her credit card was compromised, followed by check-in photos from a resort in Aspen. $1,888 for Luke to repeat a finance course due to bad luck. And here I pointed to the next page. $1,888 for Luke to repeat a finance course due to bad luck. And here I pointed to the next page. $500 in medical expenses for Chloe when Joel claimed their insurance was temporarily suspended, later discovering he simply hadn't paid the premiums. Luke looked down, Joel flushed crimson and averted his gaze. "And this section," I continued, flipping to a page displaying messenger screenshots. "Beatrice sent this to cousin Sarah. She's basically a walking ATM. No kids, no husband, no purpose, except making money to prove she's not a failure." I turned to Beatrice. "You sent that to someone who once borrowed $2,500 from me for tuition. She forwarded it to me, and I kept it." The room fell completely silent. The overhead light flickered as if it too could no longer bear the weight of the revealed truth. "Dad," I said, looking at him, "remember last April? You called me late at night, claiming Mom urgently needed $3,000 for heart tests." He nodded slightly. At the same time I added, producing another invoice and placing it on the table. She was enjoying a 3-night wellness retreat at the Four Seasons Napa Valley, paid for with the same card I had just wired funds to. My mother jumped up, her voice shrill. "You're twisting things." I was under immense stress and needed a break. And I needed dignity, I replied, but that never seemed to matter to any of you. I turned to the final page of the folder, a summary table, detailing the amounts, dates, recipients, reasons, and repayment status. The repaid column was uniformly marked N. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I simply stood before these individuals, who once called themselves my family, and allowed them to confront the reality they had refused to acknowledge. "You call me cold, emotionless," I said, "but the truth is, I'm the one who kept this family afloat for 5 years, while the rest of you only contributed burdens and judgment." Beatrice narrowed her eyes. "You kept all this for revenge?" "No," I answered. "I kept it because I held on to the hope that someday someone would realize how much I had done, that love isn't conditional upon me paying the bills." I surveyed the room. "But today, when you stood up and proudly announced you'd voted me out, I knew that hope was gone." Joel nodded slowly, for the first time looking not at Beatrice, but at me. "Layla, thank you for helping me see clearly." I picked up the folder, folded it neatly, and slipped it into my bag. "Now, I've made my decision as well." My mother's voice trembled. "Layla, you can't do this." I stepped back towards the door, my final glance no longer fueled by anger, only emptiness. "I'm not doing anything," I said softly. "I'm simply finished allowing people to hurt me." Joel still held the folder, his eyes fixed on a page folded at the corner. He slowly unfolded it, and as he reached the third line, his brow furrowed. "Beatrice," he said, barely audible. "Who is Anya Reed?" No one moved. Beatrice froze, her eyes darting between Joel, me, and then to my mother. "Why, is her name on the hotel bill?" Joel asked, louder this time, his grip tightening on the paper until it crumpled. "It's a misunderstanding," Beatrice stammered. "Just an old classmate. We went on a wellness retreat. You know that. 3 nights at the Emerald Coast Hotel, double room, champagne, couples spa package." Joel cut in, each word as sharp as a blade. Beatrice said nothing. I pulled another printout from my coat pocket and handed it to Joel. "This is a screenshot of Anya's Instagram story from that week. The room matches the hotel's promotional photos. Same bedding, same balcony view, matching white robes. And this," I swiped my phone screen, "is a message Beatrice sent to Anya. I found it on a shared iCloud account." I hadn't planned on this revelation, but when they attempted to erase me as if I never existed, I had to remind them. I wasn't blind. Joel scanned the message, then froze on one particular line. "Joel won't find out. He's too busy running the shop. You're the one I want next to me." The air in the room felt thick, heavy with unspoken accusation. Luke put down his fork, oblivious to the gravy staining his shirt. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. "So this is what you were doing while telling me I wasn't emotionally supportive enough?" Joel asked, still staring at Beatrice. Beatrice's voice cracked. "You're misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding? What? That you used my card to book a hotel room and wrote those words?" Joel held up the printout, his hands trembling so violently it nearly tore. "You called Layla a controlling freak when the only one controlling everything is you." Joel's voice finally rose above the others. "And you had the nerve to insult the one person here who stood by you." Beatrice went pale. I stood still. No smirk, no gloating, just sadness. Because this unfolded exactly as I had feared. When the truth remains buried too long, its revelation doesn't just inflict pain, it brings everything else crashing down with it. My mother approached Joel, her voice trembling. "This shouldn't have happened at the dinner table." I looked at her calmly. "And when you laughed as they declared I was voted out, that wasn't inappropriate." "You don't understand, Layla." She tried to steady her voice. "Everyone was under pressure, and I'm the only one who's not allowed to react. All these years, I asked. I stayed quiet, sent money, obeyed, tolerated. But the one time I speak up, I'm the problem." My father remained silent, as he always did. Not once had he defended me, not even with a fleeting glance. Joel sank into his chair, clutching his head. "I don't know who I can trust anymore." I looked at him, my voice softening. "You still have yourself. That's the first thing I had to learn too." The room fell quiet, but this time it wasn't a cold silence. It was the silence of people, finally realizing that the truth cannot remain buried forever. Beatrice turned to me, her eyes blazing. "You just wanted to destroy this family, didn't you? You're happy to see us fall apart, aren't you?" I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm just tired of always being the one patching up the damage you all caused." I walked toward the door again, but this time, no one stopped me, not a single word to keep me there. I opened the door and stepped outside. The early winter wind in Seattle stung my cheeks, but I didn't flinch. For the first time in years, I carried no weight on my shoulders. I walked across the front yard, my shoes sinking slightly into the damp grass. The wind rustled the leaves of the oak tree on the porch as if the house itself was sighing, finally witnessing someone choosing to leave instead of enduring more of the same. And when I got into my car and closed the door, I looked in the rearview mirror. The house I once called home now looked like nothing more than an empty shell, beautiful on the outside, rotten within. I fastened my seatbelt, started the engine, and didn't look back. 2 days after Thanksgiving night, my phone began buzzing incessantly. The first message was from my mother. "You can walk away, but you'll always be my daughter. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. We can work things out if you just open your heart." I didn't respond. I didn't delete it either. I simply left it there as proof of a familiar pattern. When they need something, I suddenly become their precious daughter again. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. No name, no caller ID. Something told me not to answer, but curiosity won. "Is this Layla?" A man's voice, slightly rushed, came through. "This is Mark, Joel's attorney. He asked me to inform you that you are the primary witness if his divorce from Beatrice proceeds to court." I paused. "He actually filed this morning," Mark replied. "He submitted the entire folder of documents you left behind." I ended the call and stood motionless in my living room. The light was still on from the night before. A photograph of me and little Chloe from our trip to the beach 3 years ago sat on the TV stand. That day, Beatrice had been away at a spa, so I took Chloe instead. She had smiled the entire ride home. Now, I wondered, was it ever really a spa weekend, or just another cover-up? Our cousin just lost his job. Any chance you could help cover his rent for a few months? I locked my screen. My heart didn't ache like it used to, just a dull exhaustion. Strangely, the silence no longer frightened me. It had become a shield, protecting me from apologies laced with ulterior motives. Mom's having issues with the mortgage. The bank requires a cosigner to avoid foreclosure. I closed the email. Didn't reread it. I'd learned this. A genuine apology doesn't come with a request. On the 5th day, I received a voicemail from my father. I never saved his number, but that dry, gravelly voice was unmistakable. "Layla, you've gone too far. Your mother can't sleep. Beatrice is in a panic. You should come back. Talk like an adult. Don't let a small thing turn you into a stranger." A small thing. Being voted out of the family. Being betrayed, insulted, used, and dismissed as a small thing. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. I kept everything, just like they kept convincing themselves I was wrong simply for walking away. The following week, I received a handwritten letter. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. 3 pages, blue ink, written with desperation. Page 1 was apologies, repeating she never meant to hurt me. Page 2 was update. Dad's back problems, flaring up again. Beatrice, left by Joel. Chloe crying for me every night. Page 3 was the offer. If I helped cover the remaining mortgage, they'd transfer the house title to my name, so you can feel secure that your money isn't being wasted. I set the letter on the table, stood up, walked straight to the trash bin, opened the lid, and dropped it in without blinking. I finally understood. They don't want me back. They want the old version of me back, the one who smiled, said okay to everything, fulfilled every request without ever asking why. But she's gone. She no longer exists. It moved out on a Monday morning, crisp and cold sunlight spilling through the windows of my old apartment. No one knew. No one saw me off. No goodbyes. And for the first time, I felt truly at peace. The new city isn't far, about a 4-hour drive from Seattle, near a lakeside town in Oregon. I didn't choose it for the scenery, but because no one here knows who I am. No one calls me Layla when they need money. No one texts me at midnight with emergencies, followed by bank details. The new apartment is smaller but warm. Wooden beams, big windows that catch the morning light, and a cozy kitchen where I brew my own coffee instead of rushing out for a latte. I started over, not bitter, just quietly relieved. My old job had drained me, an executive finance role with a 6-figure salary, but it came at the cost of sleepless nights and a life eroded by silent expectations. I resigned, as decisively as pulling a long-lodged knife from my chest. Now I work part-time as a financial advisor for a nonprofit that supports single mothers. No sales quotas, no 11 p.m. emails, no one asking, can you cover just one more thing? Just real people with real stories. And me, for the first time in years, feeling useful, not used. I started therapy, not because I broke down, but because I wanted to understand myself better. My therapist, Dr. Anya, has kind eyes and a calm presence that made it easier than I expected to say. I used to think if I stopped helping, I had no worth. I started jogging every morning. Each step felt like shedding another layer of pressure. I learned to cook, baking for the first time, from a recipe I'd bookmarked and ignored for years. I lit candles, not to mask the musty smell of an old apartment, but because I loved the scent. One day, I ran into Olivia, an old college friend who drifted away because I was always preoccupied with family. She'd seen my name in an article about rebuilding after toxic relationships. We met for afternoon tea, and I didn't expect to laugh that much during a first catch-up after years apart. Layla, Olivia said, as we stepped out of the cafe, you're still kind, but now you know who deserves that kindness. I went home, turned on my computer, and updated my entire emergency contact list. No more Mom, no more Beatrice. I added Olivia, not because she needed me, but because I knew she'd show up if I truly needed someone. One Saturday afternoon, while rearranging books on my shelf, I found an old photo, me and Chloe, hand in hand on a small hill, the wind tossing her hair. I gently touched the frame, a sharp ache in my chest. I still remembered that little girl. I just couldn't remember who her mother used to be before she became a stranger. I placed the photo into a wooden box and locked it, not to forget it, but to preserve it. A part of memory that didn't need erasing, but didn't need to haunt me either. No more surprise texts, no more midnight calls, no more bills marked urgent, no more sinking feeling every time the phone buzzed. And strangely, in that silence, I heard my own voice. Clearer than ever. I didn't lose my family. I only lost the people who pretended to be one. Now, I live, not to serve anyone, not to prove anything, but simply to be myself. And for the first time in years, when I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman who no longer strained to preserve a version of family that never truly existed. That Christmas fell on a snow-white day. I spent it alone in my new apartment, the fireplace casting a soft golden glow. No tree, no festive music, but also no sighs from my mother, no judging glances from Beatrice, no urgent calls from Dad, claiming his car just died on the freeway. I drank hot cocoa, read an old novel, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel lonely. I felt peaceful. In the morning of December 27th, I found a handwritten letter in the communal mailbox. No return address, but I knew the neat, round handwriting, like a dull knife across an old scar. It was from my mother. I didn't open it right away. I left it on the table for 3 days, under the warm lamp beside the sofa, as a test of my resolve. Then, on New Year's Eve, I opened it. Layla. The first page was sickly sweet. She wrote that she couldn't stop thinking about me, that this year's Christmas felt cruelly cold without me at the table, without anyone to slice the pumpkin pie, just the way Dad liked it. The second page shifted tone. Beatrice is really struggling, sweetheart. Joel finalized the divorce. The bank has sent notice to seize their apartment. Chloe's affected. She misses Aunt Layla. She doesn't understand why you disappeared like that. The final page turned into a plea. Your father's health is declining. I just took him for an MRI, and the results weren't good. We need a little help to cover what the insurance didn't. I hate to bring up money, but you're the only one still standing strong in this family. I folded the letter, without a word, just sat there listening to the ticking clock and the distant crackle of fireworks. On New Year's Day, I got a message from Luke. Happy New Year, Layla. No matter what, I hope you're healthy and doing well. By the way, Beatrice asked if you know anyone renting a 2-bedroom apartment. Cheap would be fine. You know she's going through a tough time. I didn't reply. By mid-January, another envelope arrived, this time from Dad. The handwriting was slanted, sharp. Layla, no greeting, no well wishes, just straight to the point. We're refinancing the house. Your mother tried negotiating, but the bank needs a co-signer. If you agree, you'd only need to sign, no payments required. We'll keep the house and no one will have to move, please. At the bottom, he added, no matter what, you're still blood. Don't let anger lead to something irreversible. I folded the letter and placed it beside my mother's. Didn't tear it, didn't toss it, just left it there. On Valentine's Day, I received a box with no sender. Inside was a candle, the exact scent I used to buy myself every year. A small card accompanied it. But Layla, I miss the smell of your room. Do you still use candles? I know you're mad at mom and grandma, but I still remember you. I still want your pancakes again. Chloe.
I couldn't soften my heart for a child only to be dragged back into an old loop, where every emotion became leverage, where every act of care turned into a financial burden. They weren't remorseful. They were short on money. And short on me, the version who nodded, wired funds, and smiled through being labeled different. I wasn't that person anymore. I didn't hate them, but I had stopped trying to be loved by people who saw kinship as emotionalized debt collection. I picked up the candle, turned it gently in my hands, then placed it back in the box, sealed it, and mailed it to the old address, along with a note. I still use candles, but I don't live in the dark anymore. In March, I got a call from an unknown number while watering my balcony plants. I let it ring until the end, then silenced it, not because I was afraid, because I no longer felt obligated to listen.
That afternoon, I took my usual walk around Mirror Lake. The sky was pale blue, the breeze cool, and the water mirrored a sky untouched by clouds. A group of children played at the hill's edge. Their laughter rang, like the childhood I thought I never had. I sat on my usual bench, beside an elderly woman, knitting with silver hair. She nodded at me, then looked out, over the lake. I see you sitting here often, she said, her voice low and warm. Looks like you're learning how to breathe again. I laughed. Yeah, I used to think I was breathing fine. Turns out, I was just holding my breath for years, trying to be who others wanted. She didn't ask anything more. She didn't need to. She simply nodded, then keep that air. Don't let anyone steal it again. I didn't need strangers to understand my story. Sometimes a warm gaze is healing enough, and I knew I was nearing the end of one journey and the beginning of a brand new chapter. A few weeks later, I received an invitation to speak at a small seminar on mental health and financial independence for women. The organizer had read my anonymous essay online, the one I thought no one would care about, but it turned out truth spreads further than I imagined. I accepted. The talk was held in a small library hall. No stage lights, no fancy chairs, just around 30 women, some with babies in arms, some with notebooks, listening intently as I shared my story. The forgotten transfers, the fake hugs under dinner tables, and the scariest decision of my life, leaving people I shared DNA with, just to save myself. When I finished, a young woman stood up, her eyes glossy. I thought I was the only one who ever felt like this, she said. Thank you for saying, out loud, what I never dared to. I stepped down and hugged her, and for the first time, I understood what it meant to give without being taken from. That night, I walked home past the little bakery, where the owner remembered my favorite pastry after just one visit. I picked up a slice of blueberry pie, then strolled down the short street to my apartment. The late spring breeze carried hints of flowers and soft acoustic music from the cafe on the corner. I opened the door, flipped on the lights, and the room filled with peace. No phone ringing with demands, no emails marked urgent, no one blaming me for changing. I sat on the floor beside my new bookshelf where I'd neatly stored the old letters in a tin box. I didn't burn them, didn't throw them out. I kept them the way people keep relics, not to remember, but to never return. I used to think freedom meant being accepted by family. Now I know, true freedom is walking away from people who only call you family when they need saving. I no longer live to please others. I live to feel peace when I rest my head each night without any unsaid apologies or unpaid debts. I live to laugh loudly when I want, cry quietly when I need, and breathe deep and long without fearing abandonment. I live not to prove anything anymore. I live because I deserve to, fully. And if you ask whether I regret it, I say I only regret not letting go sooner. Layla's story is a powerful reminder that blood ties are not an excuse to exploit, belittle, or use someone as a means to an end. Sometimes true freedom doesn't come from holding on to family, but from having the courage to walk away from those who only wear that label. Layla didn't choose to be cold. She chose to be kind to herself, and the moment she set her boundaries, she began living a life that was finally hers, peaceful, meaningful, and unapologetically free. What do you think about Layla's choice? Was she too firm, or was it the only way to protect her peace? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more compelling family stories.